Hello, dear children. Welcome to Story Time by Pip School System. Today, we will be reading a story in the Oxford Reading Treasure called The Indigo Jackal. It is written by Nicholas Forsberg. The Fine Coat. He was short and thin. He was nearly completely bald. The little hair he had left was grey. He had a moustache, but no beard. He stooped a little. He wore round glasses. There was nothing grand about him, but he did have a wonderful name. It was Shamsuddin Azumuddin Amanullah of Piriya Pandu Rangapuram. His friends called him Shamsu, which was much easier to say. Shamsu was a simple man. He wore simple clothes. He was quiet. He was polite. When he went anywhere, nobody noticed him. But Shamsu was an important man. He was the headmaster of a small school in Peripandurangapuram. One day, a grand feast was to be given in a village nearby. It was a larger village, but with a smaller name, Siriyapatnam. All the important people of Peripandurangapuram were invited to the feast. Shamsu was invited too. On the morning of the feast, Shamsu woke up and had a bath. He ate a little breakfast, a biscuit, and a cup of tea. He knew he would be fed later, and his mouth watered at the thought. Shamsu put on a clean shirt and dhoti. He arranged a plain cloth over his shoulder. He stood before a mirror and combed the grey hair above his ears. Very smart, he said to his reflection. The reflection grinned back. Very simple, but very smart. Shamsu sat on a stool beside the front door in the veranda. He slipped his chappals onto his tiny feet. Asma, Asma, he shouted, looking into the hall. Where are you? I'm leaving now. I'll be back sometime in the afternoon. Shamsu's wife hurried outside. Are you going to the feast dressed like that? She asked. Yes, said Shamsu. What's wrong with these clothes? I always wear them. Yes, you do, said his wife, and they're clean. But you're going to a feast. You should wear something grand. Grand? Said Shamsu. What is grand? My clothes are fine. I don't need any grand. I shall leave grand to the grandparents. They and their grandchildren can have grand. I am a simple man. I shall wear... All right, said his wife. Go, dress how you like. Shamsu shook his head, turning smartly, and departed. He walked through the village, out the other end, and joined the road to Siriyapatnam. After half an hour, Shamsu arrived at the feast. There were many people there, but nobody looked at Shamsu. Nobody took any notice. Even the host, the man who had invited him, did not pay any attention to him. He said hello, then turned away to talk to somebody wearing a black coat with a gold pen popping out of the top pocket. When everybody was present, the guests sat down to eat. Shamsu waited and waited, but nobody came to serve him. So They're all too busy to notice me, said Shamsu to himself. Asma was right. I'll go home and change. Then we'll see what happens. Shamsu stood up, lifted the end of his dhoti with his leg, tucked the end into the waist, and strode out of the hall. Later, when he arrived at the front door, he took off his chappals and entered his house. Asma, Asma, where are you? He shouted. Have you come back so soon? Asked his wife, hurrying out of the kitchen. No, said Shamsu grumpily. What do you think? Can't you see? It is me. Am I someone else? Did you have your feast? Asked his wife. No, said Shamsu angrily. Nobody paid any attention to me. I've come home to change. Shamsu opened a tall cupboard in his bedroom. He stood on a chair, stretched up to the top shelf, and took down a large brown paper parcel. He placed it on his bed and carefully opened the wrapping. It would come in useful later. Shamsu took a long coat from the parcel. It was a fine coat, pale cream in color. It had a gold embroidered pattern along the cuffs and down the front. Asma was standing behind him, watching. What on earth are you doing, Shamsu? She asked. You're not going to wear that, are you? Yes, said Shamsu. You said I should wear grand clothes. This coat was my grandfather's. Let me see how I am treated in this. Asma helped Shamsu get into the coat. Then she brushed the front. Yes, said Asma. It does look very grand. I'll be back later, said Shamsu hurriedly. Goodbye. On his way back to Siriyapatnam and the feast, Shamsu got lucky. A cart went by and the driver offered him a lift. Shamsu accepted the offer gladly as he was now feeling quite warm. In no time at all, Shamsu was back in Siriyapatnam. He got off the cart just outside the village. It would not do to be seen arriving in such transport. Shamsu walked grandly into the hall. Suddenly, there was a hush. All eyes turned to look at him. People stopped eating and rose to greet him. There were salams all round. Shamsu marched over to an empty seat and sat down. The host himself hurried to greet Shamsu and to ask if he was comfortable. Servants followed the host. One brought hot, crispy naans. Another brought a large pot of curry and immediately poured a bowl for Shamsu. Shamsu kept nodding his head, but said nothing. When the curry was served to him, he immediately put the sleeve of his coat into the bowl. Guests sitting nearby looked surprised. Some hid their laughter. Some whispered, "Whatever is he doing?" Shamsu stopped nodding his head. He said in a loud voice, Eat, my coat, eat. Come, eat. Your curry has arrived, eat. The host, now standing directly in front of Shamsu, looked most startled. Sir, sir, said the host, what are you doing? Your sleeve is getting wet. Let it, replied Shamsu. It's not getting wet. It's eating the curry. The curry must be for the coat. What do you mean, sir? Asked the host. When I came here earlier, in plain clothes, explained Shamsu, nobody noticed me. Nobody said hello. Nobody offered me food or drink. But now, everyone wants to serve me. No, not me, my coat. I think it's the coat and not myself that's welcome here.